I'm really excited to have Dave Kramer here. I was particularly inspired. He recently spoke at a National Association of Women Business Owner meeting. And I'm really impressed with the way Dave approaches things because it's a tad bit different. He looks at this and then he goes just a little bit to the side and comes at it a different way. And because of that, he can talk about, he was talking about networking, and yet he brought up ideas and concepts that were just a little bit off of what anybody else has been saying or doing. So I know I'm particularly interested in hearing what his experience has been with blogging and promoting his business. So Dave, thank you.
That's funny, she actually covered what I was going to say. I do tend to look at things a little differently. And so I'm going to challenge you to just kind of listen to this information. It's not going to be typically things that you've heard before. Maybe it applies to you, maybe it doesn't, maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't, but at least we can all kind of take a look at things from a different angle. My name is Dave Kramer. I'm from AllProWebTools. It is a software toolkit for running a small business. I started this business in Colorado 9 years ago, and I had up to 10 employees working out of an office there, and we manage hundreds and hundreds of accounts. We process over $1 million in credit card charges every month through our system for all of our customers. And so this thing kind of mushroomed. It kind of grew a little faster than I was expecting. And part of the reason is from the blogging that we did. I hired a full-time writer on staff to write in my company. And the reason I did that is because we created a software that nobody's ever seen before, that does things that nobody's ever done before. So we couldn't just outsource the writing. We couldn't say, here, write about this new thing that nobody's ever heard of before. They had to be in the company. They had to play with the software themselves. They had to meet the programmers and ask them questions. They had to meet the marketing people and ask them questions. They had to hear the crosstalk that was going on in the office. And they would pick up these tidbits, these little things. When the customer service people were on the phones answering questions from customers, the writer was sitting right there, listening to everything that was going on. And you think about it, the questions that the customers are asking are the very things that we should have information about. So the writer was able to be really involved in the business, in the company, and hearing all the activity of what was going on, so that the blog content would be much more appropriate, much more compelling for the readers to engage with. I wanted to start by asking, why do we blog? What is our goal? And we can have different goals.
Drive traffic.
Educate.
And educate, yeah. Those are top two for me.
Traffic
and educate.
And educate. Any other goals of blogging?
Connect with people.
Build revenue eventually, not directly, but
So
for
traffic
me. But
typically goes to revenue, right?
yeah.
Commercial purposes.
Promo. Yep.
Awareness.
What was that?
Awareness.
Awareness. I like that. This is pretty much everything, all the reasons that we did it as well. I want to talk about the traffic to revenue one first. It's kind of the one that everybody is excited about. And I will tell you that we signed up hundreds and hundreds of customers, and I can't remember one customer that said, you know, I read your blog and I just had to sign up. We can't remember one person saying that. So how did we get traffic to revenue? How did that work for us? Any ideas? Let me ask you a question. How many of you have a blog from a website that you love to go to and you read every day? You go back to that website and you read those blogs over and over and over again.
7.
2?
A few times a week.
So got a room of 8 people, 2 out of 8 people have an actual blog that they go to and follow that content.
Well, yeah, I don't go to it. It comes to me.
Yeah, in the email.
Right, emails, right.
Same principle.
Yeah.
Same email.
So that's a key for us, right? If we want people to subscribe, we want to be able to push the information to them instead of expecting them to come to the website. Absolutely. Where was I going with that question? Oh yes. So if we're not typically going to websites to read the same blog over and over, what's the purpose of blogging over and over and over? How does that work? How do people find the blog, right? Content. How do people find that article?
to build a content library so people, they know that that's a place, or that Google knows that this is a place.
Right, SEO.
That's
That's where
and
you
social
want.
media stuff. SEO, right? So that is the key, is you have people going to Google and they're searching for a specific topic, a specific thing. And Google's going to usually try to find a result that's geographically close to where you are. So your site might show up for that. So that gets them introduced to one page on your website. And then that's when you want to capture them and try to message to them and all that kind of stuff. But that's how we got traffic to revenue, is going that direction. And there's one other way I wanted to point out to you: credibility. We would get somebody who had heard about our product and they would go to our website to check us out, right? And if they go to our blog page and it says last updated 2012,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if these guys are really serious about their business.
Same
right?
thing on social media.
So that was something that I think really helped, because when we started writing and writing and writing, we saw that our sales team had an easier time with conversions because we had more credibility.
Right.
The other thing that blogs led to for us was more press. This writer that I hired full-time, I invested over $45,000 in my writing program over a 2-year period. And this writer was dedicated to writing blogs about our product. That wasn't all they wrote about. I also got them connected with some local news, press writing for newspapers. And I asked them if I could have my writer shadow them for a day. And that resulted in their being able to write as a guest on that news organization. So over here,
You asked if your writer could shadow.
shadow a reporter. Yep. And then that ended up, let's see if I can find
And they were receptive to this.
Absolutely.
I think local reporters would be, I think they'd be very receptive.
Should I go on to shadow me?
So this writer that I hired was fresh out of college, and she was really, really passionate about writing. And this is innovationnews.com, and it's a publication in Colorado, and they have been writing for years and years and years about technology and startup community. And so these are the guest blog posts. Now this, a lot of the times she would write about our product or things related to our product. And in her little bio, it said that she worked at AllProWebTools. So we got a little link back for that activity. And it was a win-win for everybody, because the news organization wanted more reporters on the street gathering more information. And this intern who had just gotten out of college, who had no portfolio of things that they had done, now has not only writing blogs on our website, but also writing on a regular basis for a news organization. So it worked for everybody.
Was this sponsored content that you paid for, or did they let you post it without charging?
No charge at all. It's a win-win for everybody. The writer had a pretty consistent schedule. The first hour of every day, they would come in and they would pitch stories to local, well, not even local, but just any blog in the United States that they could find. They would pitch stories all day, or all for the entire hour. Pitch, 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 pitch. So that resulted in an article here on Buddy Truck that she got a snippet in, and then a link back to our site. Then we also were mentioned in the Wall Street Journal, right there, as a result of her efforts to pitch stories. And then we also got listed in the top 20 CRM solutions, which was another article by On a Platter of Gold. And we also, there was a AT&T article that is no longer online, but we got featured in that one. And then we got featured on this one as well. So her efforts resulted in a lot of external guest blogging, and then that just kind of builds on itself. more. So the trick with pitching articles to news organizations, does anybody have any tips on that, or have you ever tried that? What you want to do, reporters are basically lazy, and they don't want to write an article. So you don't want to call them and say, hey, I got a really great idea for a story, you should write about this topic. They hear that all day long. So they actually want you to do all of their work for them. In some cases, they will put your name on it. On other cases, they will take your name off and put their name on it and say, here's my article. And that's the trick. So when you pitch to a news organization, you want to have your headline of your email be what the headline would be in the news article. And the body is basically, here's a story for you, da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's how we got picked up on these items. What do you blog about? If you're gonna blog twice a week, man, I just wrote everything last week. What am I gonna write about this week? Any ideas for the group? What do you do in your blog to keep the content coming?
We take in content from a bunch of other different sources, and then we kind of just see what other people are talking about, pull ideas from that, repurpose content.
So would you say that's, you're kind of looking at your competitors' blogs?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. So those ideas can be transferred. What's that?
Feedback from your customers.
We did that a lot. That was pretty much what drove everything that we did. Because we were developing our software so quickly, and we're adding new features constantly. We have new customers asking new questions, and then new features to talk about, and then new questions for new features, and it just continued to cycle. There were times when the writer was like, "Can you guys stop? There's just too much." Is there something?
Awareness calendars. I know for me, for my type of business, you know, as we're preparing ahead for the weeks to come, one of the ones that stuck out for me was an awareness day. What is it? Oh, like Elder Awareness Day or something like that. You know, but there are national activities and things happening during this specific week, and so a lot of what we do will relate back to activities that are already happening and tying those locally.
Yep.
How far in advance do you plan out for your blog? Maybe a little different for you than it would be for me, but.
Yeah, it is different for each industry. For something that's more time sensitive, obviously you're gonna have to write probably that week. But so what we would do is we would have what we call some things in the can. So if we had new features that were being released, we would write about those ahead of time because those could kind of work at any time and they would use them as filler content. And then when there were time sensitive issues, like we had our big launch party and we had to announce that and talk about it. And then after the launch party, we had to talk about what had happened.
Right.
So that was more time sensitive. So whenever we kind of had a lull, we would throw in some of the canned content that we'd already written.
Do you use a planner of any kind, or
Yeah.
do you?
Yeah, I personally didn't, but the writer had a complete calendar on the wall, tape,
Okay.
and da-da-da-da-da. And they tried to keep it consistent. I think they were doing 3 blogs a week, so they had Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
And, you know, Monday was a certain category of information, and Wednesday was another category. The writer had a spreadsheet with all of her ideas of things to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the time she left the company, she had, the spreadsheet was so long, I mean, she never was able to keep up with all of her ideas.
Yeah. I've got all my ideas. It's just a matter of getting myself organized enough that I can get ahead of the game and not be behind the
And you
eight ball.
can write, like if you sit down on a day and write 4 of them, you can schedule them one
Right.
a month or one per week, and just go out and get them done in the weekend.
So that's what we did with our canned ones, is we would actually schedule them for days that we didn't intend for them to go out in the future. That way, if we missed it, if we made a mistake, something
Right.
that got forgotten, it would fill in that slot. We could always push the other ones out and slide one in between if
Right.
we had something that was time sensitive.
So is there a mix that you have, a percentage of how much you write about the business versus about other things?
Yep, I'm gonna go into that right now. First, I wanted to show the press page, just to show how many different articles that she was able to get us posted for different resources around the internet.
Wow.
So that represents about a year's worth of work that she was working on the press stuff. So as far as topics, one of the first things we did was customer success stories. Now, we didn't do everything selfishly about us, but this is one that kind of works both ways. So we'll do customer
So if, like,
success.
I have a lot of customers that own their own business, so I could technically highlight one of my customers in one of my blogs.
That's what we did, right here.
That's what I plan to
That's
do.
it.
That's like gonna
Yeah.
be a bulk of what I'll be doing in my blog.
So, like,
As a
when
part of
Kate
what I
gets
do
a
in my
job-
business, to promote other businesses.
You
Yes.
promote Kate's business when she gets a
So,
job and starts
that's-
using me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So here we
I like talking about other people.
listed different companies that were working with us and the different successes that they encountered. And, you know, everybody's version of success in their business is a little different, so these stories were really kind of fun to do. And hearing the different ways that our tools were able to help them to optimize their workflow or whatever it was they were doing. So this actually served both purposes. This served our customer because more advertising for them, and it served us because it demonstrated how we're able to help different customers in different industries. PR score is something that Google invented.
No surprise.
So the way it works is, if you are a website here, and you have a big website up here, like CNN.com or some big website that gets lots of traffic, and if they have a link to your website, that kind of demonstrates that there's some value there. Now, if you're just a little guy here and you link to one other little guy and they link to one other little guy, that only each one of these websites only gets about 100 visitors a day, not so, you know, amazing or impressive, but to have a big company like this that's pointing to a little site, in your mind, that would mean, hey, there's something going on there. But what if you had another big site, and they're all pointing to this little guy? That's usually the indicator of a startup that's really launching something special and new and interesting, and all the big guys are going, hey, look at this thing. So this is how PR score works. So the size of the bubble, the size of the website, is the score from 1 to 10, actually 0 to 10. So the bigger the number, the bigger the site. So typically when you launch your website, you're a 0, and then Google goes to see how many big sites are pointing at you, and starts to determine, well, you know, you can't be that small if you got 3 big guys pointing at you, so we're going to upgrade you to a 1. We're going to upgrade you to a 2 PR score. So that's what that is, and we're going to run a check on my website. All right, so the Google PageRank is 5 out of 10,
What does that mean though?
so that's your bubble size.
Okay.
Okay, how big your website is, how important you look to Google, how much great information you've got, how many bigger sites are linking to you. So I've got a number of 7s and 8s that are pointing at my website. So Google says, well, you can't be that bad. You got all these big guys pointing at you.
I bet my rank is probably going to 1.
Do you mind if we check?
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
My almost more.
Mine's 0.
Did you check it?
Oh, we can go below.
No,
Oh, he's
yeah,
down
yes,
here.
Can you go under 0? That's not
I don't
what
want
mine's
Kate.
0.
Kate, I bet you're at least at 1. They're not gonna insult us with a 0. I'm a 1 out of 10.
So I'm going to run this one here. Typically, most websites, it is like a pyramid. So the most websites at the bottom are going to be 0s and 1s, and there's very few. I don't think there's actually any 10s. The score does go to 10, but I don't think anyone's been scored as a 10. Not even Google scores as a 10.
Oh, you're a 2.
So she's a 2.
Woo-hoo. Set your expectations low and then.
So why do I bring this up? Why is this important? Well, going to the fact that I worked so hard on this to get articles or to get links from the Wall Street Journal pointing to my website, that raised my PageRank. Now that my PageRank is higher, I can now in turn hand that kind of link traffic to my customers who are at 1s and 0s on their websites and help to elevate them, so the top down. So that way, when I go to these companies that work with me and say, do you mind if I do a guest blog or do I do a featured blog on you on my website, there's actual credibility to how it's going to improve their traffic on their website. Because the big bubble pulls up the medium bubble. So you got the big bubble, you got the medium bubble, and you got the little tiny bubble. So we created that kind of a structure with PageRank. Now, if you do research on PageRank, you're going to hear that Google has discontinued it, doesn't exist anymore. Scott, you're probably familiar in the SEO world, backlinking.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other tricks? Remember when you used to put font at the bottom of the page with all your keywords that was the same color as the background?
Right.
There's all kinds of tricks, right? But those tricks don't work anymore. Things
Right.
change over time. But here's the thing that's always going to be. Google wants to present relevant content to what the search is. That's all it comes down to. If I'm looking for cats and dogs, I don't want an article that links to pizza, right? That's the core of what Google is doing. There are different ways that Google algorithmically figures out how to bring the person to the appropriate website. But at the end of the day, if you're writing content that relates to what the search is, Google's going to try to bring people to you for that item. That being said, PageRank is still a factor in how Google determines how important your website is. Does that make sense, or am I losing everybody here? So this bubble theory here, even though they're not advertising PR score any longer, Google actually used to have a plugin you could put in your browser, and every page you went to across the internet, it would tell you their page rank. And they got rid of that. They don't, because then the SEO guys were gaming the system and making adjustments. And like, ooh, did it go up? Oh no, okay, let me try this. Oh yeah, it went up. And so they got rid of that because they didn't want people gaming the system. So the fact that they don't show the score anymore doesn't necessarily mean they're not using the score anymore. So that is PageRank. So we were talking about what to blog about. So one of the items was your customer success stories. What else can you blog about?
Industry updates.
Great.
Pet products, new leashes, new harnesses.
What was
new
that?
pets, pet products, just the products that my clients use, the leashes, the toys, the.
New products. What was your strat?
Industry updates.
Okay, I kind of feel like that's very similar.
Yeah.
Relevant issues in the community.
Another suggestion to help with that issue is to invite others to blog on your website.
Yes, that's the plan.
And so we did that pretty successfully. And I'll tell you, as your page rank goes up, people will start coming to you. I get an email probably every week. Hey, can I post a blog on your website? Can I post a blog on your website? Because the professional bloggers who know how the game works, they're doing searches on PR Score to find who the bigger sites are. And the bigger the site is, the more they're going to ask you if they can. They're constantly pushing their content. I turn them down all the time. Yeah. So as your PR score goes up, you'll get more people who want to write for you, and then you can kind of.
Yeah, I have quite a few. I get that all the time. Even people I wouldn't even, I don't know why they want to write for my site, not even close to being relevant
You know.
or related.
Yeah. That's really all it is. They're just looking for a good link. Yeah. Or
But-
just a massive links. Maybe they don't even care if it's a good link, but just they want as many as they can.
Right,
So you have to be very choosy.
right. I'll
And how
be
do you
choosing
choose?
people locally.
Well, if you look at their content and they're not even writing about what you do, it
Right,
doesn't relate to your audience, it's not going to be a fit. Because that's the thing, you don't want to dilute your brand and get it to where people are like, I don't even like this blog. It's never anything relevant. It's always a bunch of fluff.
right.
You want it to stay really focused on your niche. So
Mhm.
if you can get a guest blogger, if you have a buddy in town, somebody that does something similar to what you do, or will at least service the same audience, do whatever you can to get attention. So I started getting a limo and putting a bunch of small business owners into the limo, and we would drive about an hour to Denver, and we would do a little business networking in the limo on the way to the event. And this, I put the big A on the side of the car, and then I had my employees in the car with the A shirt on. And so it gave us a lot of opportunities to take pictures and do the videos, and it built on itself to where other people were saying, can I get in the limo? Can I do the limo ride? And then we'd show up to the event, and the limo would park out right in front, and there would be the big A on the side. And people were walking in and go, what is that? And they go into the event, and there's all these shirts with A on it. What is going on here? And then the people who were in the limo were talking to other people, saying, I just rode this limo on the way here. It was great. It was traffic, but I didn't care.
Mhm.
So what does this have to do with blogging? Well, anything you can do to get attention, this actually resulted in are being contacted by business.com, and they wanted to write about our limousine trips. So they put that as number 5 on their top 5 ways to get attention for your business.
Wow.
And this also was trending on Facebook as a hashtag, mobile networking.
Mobile, that's cool.
So try to think outside the box, do something that's going to get attention, and then write about it. The other thing that we did was our launch party.
Talk about thinking outside.
You gotta think outside the box. Absolutely. So the other part, we got the limo for the launch party, and we hired a radio show in Denver to come up to our place, and they brought all of their people, and we did this really big party. We had about 200 guests there. Scott, I would definitely recommend doing something like this for your business.
Yeah.
So, we did it up. We got special stickers made for name badges. We decorated this entire venue. It took us an entire day to post all the signs and banners and things. And then we brought everybody up, brought the radio guys up on stage. And so we filmed the whole event. We did a lot of press on the way up to the event. So we called every local news agency, television, newspaper, and we actually had 4 reporters at the event who were writing about the event as it was occurring. You can read those stories on our press page on the website. And then after the event, then we continued to blog about it. This actually trended very well also on Twitter that day and Facebook. So you gotta get noticed. The other thing that I am a big proponent for, personally, I enjoy working with young people and helping them with their entrepreneurial goals and ambitions. So this was when I went to teach at a 6th grade class, and so we wrote an article about that. So that's something else you can do. And then I also worked very closely with the Rehire program in Colorado. The Rehire program is a way for people who just got out of prison or are living on the streets to help them to get employable. And so I worked with about 8 different individuals. Each one got 3 months working with our company, and we taught them skills like how to type, how to work with computers, how to do customer service. And then they would leave our internship program, and they were able to enter the workforce. So we did this a number of times. We also worked with local colleges to get kids who had just graduated, and they go to get a job, and they say, I just studied for 4 years, I'm good at this. Can I get a job? And they say, well, we're looking for somebody with experience. So everywhere they go, they're looking for people with experience. How do you get the experience? You can't get hired. So I work with a lot of young people who are fresh out of college, helping them to get a little experience under their belt. And so in closing, this is a picture of Andrea. She is the writer that really helped us to get to where we are. And she's fresh out of college, couldn't really get a job because she didn't have the experience. And when she left us, she now has this portfolio of writing for local news agencies. So I was going to ask if Kate wouldn't mind reading in Andrea's voice. This is when Andrea left for her last day, we had her write her last blog about her experiences at AllProWebTools.
Today is my last day at AllProWebTools. I'm crying. And I'm definitely experiencing the very definition of mixed feelings. Working with the team on the challenge of growing this incredible startup has been incredibly rewarding, a huge learning experience, and has inspired me for the future. I'm moving on next to an online editor position at F&W, a media and e-commerce company specializing in hobbies and special interests. For example, I'll be working with their weaving and spinning communities, writing blog posts, social media, and other content for those sites. Without AllProWebTools, I never would have gotten this opportunity. When I graduated from college, I found myself, as so many other people my age do, in an awkward position. I had a degree in writing, but little experience. I spent over a year applying for jobs and trying out a few opportunities, living with my parents and panicking about the future. Then I saw the job posting that brought me to AllProWebTools. I submitted my application and came in for an interview with Dave, AllProWebTools founder. I could tell, even from the interview, that AllProWebTools was the kind of place where learning was a major value and priority. Once I got the job, I started learning so much so quickly that I was sleeping 10 hours a night just to process it all. I learned about writing for the internet, I learned about SEO, and I learned about what it takes to be a small business owner. I think this focus on learning is what makes AllProWebTools a really special place to work. Watching how much our interns grow in just a few months, seeing some of them become full-time employees, and continuing to grow and seeing the company grow too as a result has been really special to witness. One of the best things about working for AllProWebTools is how much things change day to day and month to month. I've worn so many hats in this role, and that's only increased my opportunities to learn new skills and learn what I like to do. One of those skills has been learning the basics of managing an employee. I had the chance to work with 2 great interns in my time here, and the AllProWebTools toolkit was a great way to learn the art of management. Even if I don't have AllProWebTools in my next management role, I can pull some key lessons from the mindset behind the software. I learned how important it is to get key tasks in writing and how much of a difference your organizational systems and processes can make on productivity. I've also learned some really valuable lessons about how to manage for self-reliance and confidence. In a few years, I hope to transition to either running my own business or working as a freelancer. I've wanted to do so for a long time, but without this job, I would have had no idea what I was getting into. Now I've spent over a year really diving into the issues facing small business owners, and I feel much more prepared and knowledgeable. And I can certainly tell you, I'll be signing up for an AllProWebTools when I go to do it. I'm so thankful for AllProWebTools and my team for all the opportunities I've been given here. And here's to whatever the future may hold.
Thank you, Kate.
Why is small business owners in green there?
So that's a link, and that is our dictionary system, special system we wrote for our blog, where if you search for that term, it brings your site up on Google. It's a SEO trick that gets you up top of Google. So this term, canoe plant, one of our clients in Hawaii grows a fruit called noni, and they wrote one article about canoe plants, and they are listed number 5 on Google for the term canoe plants, and that's not even something they sell or anything they do, it's just one thing. They do sell noni fruit, and think about the term noni fruit. That's a very broad term. What would you expect to see if you did search for noni fruit? Probably some Wikipedia articles, some information, pictures of what it is. Like, that's a really sought after term. And they rank number 9. The first article is a Wikipedia, and then there's another informational article, but they're right there in the top 10. And where does it link to? If you click on it, it goes to their dictionary page. Now, a dictionary page is not a blog. Dictionary page is a page that you create on your website that describes something, describes a term, just like a dictionary. And we specifically formulated the technology behind this page so that Google recognizes it as a resource, not as a sales page. Because Google prioritizes giving information over helping you sell products. So by having a dictionary page on your website, you're telling Google, we are not trying to sell anything, we have information for the public. And what you do with that dictionary page is every time you mention that phrase, so we're going to use the phrase noni tree. So that's my keyword. I want, when somebody types in Google, I want to show up at the top of Google. So every time I write the word noni tree into my blog, I want it to automatically turn it into a link that links to my dictionary page. So we're going to call that the dictionary page. And then I have all these blogs around the dictionary page that have the word noni tree in them. And they all point back to that one dictionary page. And that's called internal linking. That's your website linking to your own website. But Google looks at how many times you link to yourself with the same word over and over and over again and says, man, they must be really serious about this thing. They're talking about it a lot. And they're referencing this page that is not selling anything. It's just defining the term. This is something that we invented, we created for our system. I don't know if WordPress offers this. If there's any WordPress experts in the audience, can you tell me if that's a feature? You can do this manually. You can highlight it and say, okay, go back to here. Every time you write the blog, you highlight it. You can do that manually, but this system does it automatically. It searches your entire website looking for that term and links everybody back to the dictionary page.
That's part of the AllProWebTools?
It's part of our software that we create. In closing, I may never make $1 million in my business, but that blog that you read, that's worth everything to me. The fact that I've been able to change other people's lives and help other young people and people who were living in halfway houses to become employable and to have a sense of accomplishment in their lives when they look back at their time working with my company, that's all I can ever ask for. I'm totally happy with that. So my name is Dave Kramer from AllProWebTools. Thank you for listening.
Yay!